Another year, another showcase of future flops. I feel like I say that every year. Yet somehow, the Summer Games Fest, aka Discount E3, manages to get worse each time. Over the course of 3 days, I watched over 8 hours of presentations. Yet I maybe saw 5 games tops that I was actually interested in playing. I'm not exaggerating. You ever get the feeling that the console wars are over and everybody lost? That's what it feels like right now. And again, every time I make these videos, I feel like I'm just repeating myself over and over again. They just don't make games for people like me anymore. It's gotten to the point that it's not even actually worth it to break down each presentation because there was so little to talk about. So instead, we're going to do things slightly differently this time. No, there's no woke counter. It would be a complete waste of time, trust me. I'm sure there's some people pretending that, oh man, wokeness is dying because there were slightly fewer black female protagonists this year. No, the reality is they hid most of the far left propaganda in the presentations nobody watched. Women-led games, the wholesome stream, Latin American games, black voices in gaming. I don't think anybody watched any of those shows. In fact, when I watched the women-led game show on stream, my chatters probably comprised about 80% of their live stream chat. So instead of wasting a lot of time talking about shows that showed nothing of value, I'm mainly just going to break down the Sony State of Play that took place 2 days before the Summer Games Fest, the main Summer Games Fest show itself, and the Xbox Game Showcase. Now, you could maybe make an argument that it'd be worth talking about the PC gaming show, seeing as it was 2 hours long, but out of those 2 hours, I don't think there was a single indie game or PC exclusive that I gave a flying fuck about. So I'm just going to break down the 3 main shows and then briefly summarize all the other shitty ones that I wasted my time watching. So without further ado, here's the Summer Game Fest 2025. Now, technically, the first show in the Summer Game Fest was the Unreal Engine showcase, but I think the only thing people actually gave a shit about there was the Witcher 4 tech demo. So there's probably 5 people who want to know my thoughts on that, and well, honestly, I don't have any. It was just a graphic showcase combined with almost like a pseudo GTA reactivity of the world type of thing, which people were supposedly impressed by. But my only question is why? This is an open world RPG. Why the hell would you give a fuck if random ass civilians are saying scripted dialogue to you? Now, of course, you could always sell yourself the lie that this is the game directly reacting to things that you did in the game world or some shit, which congratulations on playing your first video game. But seriously, this is probably a complete sham. In fact, CD Projekt Red has already been caught multiple times severely downgrading graphics from initial reveals to release. So if you fall for this, you're a moron. Now, on to the Sony State of Play. You may have heard that this is arguably one of the worst State of Plays of all time. Honestly, I disagree, but given the context, I would say it's pretty bad. That this is effectively supposed to be Sony's E3 showcase, or would have been, if E3 still existed. And instead, this just felt like the average Nintendo Direct. But arguably even worse, because there was no first-party titles shown here. Ghost of Yotei releases this year, yet they showed no gameplay for it. The only interesting games were third-party titles. There's the announcement that Pragmata still exists, though it's not coming out till next year, so who knows. And I honestly think only a small subsection of my audience is interested in that game for questionable reasons. There's Suda51's new game, Romeo is a Dead Man, which looks very quirky and over the top, much like the rest of that studio's games. We also got to see some more gameplay of Silent Hill F, which, as a Silent Hill fan, I'll be honest, this doesn't really look anything like Silent Hill other than the fog. The choice to move it from the US to Japan, yeah, honestly, I'm not really a fan of that, especially since Silent Hill is known for being one of the more combat-focused survival horror games. I mean, it was one of the first franchises in the genre back when those games were fixed camera, tank control, combat games, right? They were primarily about resource management, and just judging by this gameplay, it still looks like combat is definitely a focus. So playing as a fucking Japanese schoolgirl beating the shit out of horrific monsters is already kind of taking me out of the experience. And as many others have said before me, this looks more like Fatal Frame than Silent Hill. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see if it's any good. You have to remember that arguably only the first 3 or 4 games of this franchise are good, and the other half are mid or worse. So I wouldn't get my hopes up. Then we get the announcement trailer for Bloodstained 2, which, believe it or not, I never got around to the first, even though I really like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And I don't have too much else to say. I feel like the Metroidvania genre has kind of been beaten to death by indies, but I suppose if this stands out in its quality, it may be worth checking out. Then we get another trailer for the next Digimon story game. Again, I don't really play these. I actually was a big fan of Digimon growing up, alongside Pokemon for that matter, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Honestly, I didn't really play favorites. But for some reason, none of the games have really captured my attention completely. There's something about the core Digimon gameplay that just doesn't quite feel right. The only one I finished was Digimon World Dusk, where you had to revert your Digimon to increase their level cap and then evolve them again to finally progress eventually to Ultimate and then Mega forms. I haven't played Cyber Sleuth, so I have no idea if it works the same way, but I really hope it doesn't. Many people generally only play JRPGs for the story and the characters, but if the core gameplay is sufficiently repetitive or bad enough, I will drop it. Then we get a trailer for the Final Fantasy Tactics remaster, and similar to the pixel remasters of the classic Final Fantasy games, I can already tell people are going to complain about some of this new graphics because it just kind of looks cheap and soulless, like it was outsourced to some Indian studio. But thankfully, you can pick the classic graphics options. There's a pretty good chance I'll actually play this when it comes out, so I can't really complain. Then we get our next streamer bait game by the creator of QWOP and Getting Over It. It's basically fucking 3D QWOP, but you play as a goddamn soy boy. I don't know, this just looks fucking disgusting to me. I'm sure the main creator thought it was funny to play as this repulsive creature, but yeah, no, this just makes me not want to touch this fucking game with a 10-foot pole. I'm tired of this shit. This stopped being funny over a decade ago. Then there was a game that maybe only I vaguely care about, Hirogami, because I'm known as a bit of a baby game enjoyer, and so I'll certainly give this 3D platformer a try. There's kind of some assorted shit that honestly doesn't belong at a showcase like this, like another Hot Shots Golf, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which I no doubt will play on stream at some point. That fucking brown girl climbing game that got like 4 trailers over the course of several shows in this year's Summer Game Fest. Cairn. If you're one of those delusional people that thinks woke is dying, trust me, this gets a lot worse later in other shows. Then we get another trailer for a game that people are admittedly excited for, the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. And you might expect me to shit talk this, but at face value, it does look good. But when it comes to remakes, the devil is in the details. Now, I'm not the biggest MGS3 fan in the world. I think it's a great game, but it's not my favorite in the series. That'd be MGS1. So maybe you would expect me to do some kind of video saying exactly how the remake is worse or better, most likely worse. But I'll leave that to the super fans. Just know that if you saw my Silent Hill 2 remake video, you already know what my opinion on remakes are. They shouldn't exist. It's just that fucking simple. Does that mean all remakes are bad? No, but 95% of them are bad. Then we get arguably the first big reveal of the show that Nioh 3 is being made. I still haven't played Nioh 2. I know a lot of people love it. The first one I honestly didn't think was that great. A bit overrated, but everybody seems to think Nioh 2 is awesome, so maybe I'll give it a shot before this one comes out. You guys already know I'm really fucking sick of Souls-likes, but I hear that Nioh 2 kind of diverged farther from that genre. So I'll just say that Nioh 3 looks cool and leave it at that, and there's a demo out if you want to try it. Then we get a kind of depressing reveal as the Thief franchise is somehow still not dead. It's being brought back as a VR game where you play as a woman. And I've already heard the cope, oh, well, Garrett's in it. They even got his original voice back. Who cares? You're playing as a fucking woman. That's the whole point. It's in VR. If you weren't just a set of floating hands, I'd say this is a fucking autogynephilia simulator. But for the 5 people who still give a fuck about VR, I suppose you could look forward to this. Then we get what I can only describe as a Concord-like, which I'm going to call every one of these gross-ass, rainbow-colored multiplayer shooters. It's called Tides of Tomorrow, and I guess you pick a faction, and it's got some kind of story related to multiplayer activities. Who the fuck knows, man? Just look at it. It looks gross. I don't care about any of the details. Moving on. Then we get a brief announcement that there's going to be more free DLC for Astrobot, which I'll probably check out at some point. Then there's a trailer for a game called Sea of Remnants, which is some kind of pirate RPG with a very interesting art style, we'll say. They didn't really show much gameplay, though, so I don't have much to comment on. Then next up, we got the sequel to Journey, which for some reason isn't just called Journey 2. And yeah, it definitely just looks like Journey, but you're on a hoverboard. Now, I liked Journey back when it came out, even if it was a glorified walking simulator, so I probably will try out Sword of the Sea, but yeah, I mean, I expect more of the same, for sure. Then after some meaningless announcements nobody gives a shit about, really, we get to see the reveal for the new James Bond game made by the developers of Hitman. And do I even need to point out the diversity here? An Indian woman, a black guy, and a black woman. Again, for those of you who seem to think woke is dying, this is no doubt going to be one of the biggest releases of the year when it comes out. I wouldn't be shocked if they make James Bond gay. That would certainly be on brand. And yeah, I don't know, this just looks really generic, and there were at least 3 trailers for this over the course of the various shows, because IOI had their own showcase, which we'll get into later, was a complete fucking disaster. And there was even more stuff showing off in a later show, which at the time of recording this, I don't even remember which one, because they've all blurred together. And not one of them managed to sell me on this game at all. I just think Zoomers don't really give a fuck about James Bond. It doesn't help that Daniel Craig was James Bond for so goddamn long, even though I like, you know, at least half of those movies. Not quite as bad as Indiana Jones, of course, but James Bond is ultimately a boomer Gen X millennial franchise. He doesn't really connect with Gen Z, and while millennials still have a lot more purchasing power than Zoomers, I just can't see this being really that popular. Unless it's like extremely shilled heavily by all the influencers, which could very well happen. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Then, like I said before, we get a brief reminder that Ghost of Yotei still exists. No gameplay. Apparently, there's going to be a gameplay deep dive next month. And yeah, it's just sad to see that Sucker Punch is finally dead. It was the last Sony studio that I actually gave a fuck about. Even though I had my issues with Ghost of Tsushima, I still think it was certainly above average in the sandbox chore simulator genre. And you know, I love Infamous. I was a big fan of Sly Cooper as well growing up, and they finally succumbed to the woke bullshit just like every other Sony studio. Not really surprising. But now Sony just has nothing left, unless you want to say Team Asobi with Astrobot. But even then, Astrobot I liked more for the fucking references than the actual gameplay itself. As someone who loves baby games, it got outdone by a random-ass indie game where you play as a yellow taxi and go vroom. Which that is an excellent game, by the way. I'm just gonna shill it again, despite the title. Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom is one of the greatest 3D platformers of the past 10 years. And the final reveal of the show is Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, which I suppose is Arc System Works trying to butt in on the Marvel vs. Capcom crowd. And yeah, I've said it quite a few times over the years, but I don't really play fighting games, so I don't care about this personally. I know a lot of people like Dragon Ball FighterZ, so those are probably the type of people that would be excited for this. It being 4v4 is interesting to say the least. And I can't really say I have any complaints about the roster, except that Kamala Khan is being forced into this, even though no one gives a flying fuck about her. I feel like Disney has a gun to the head of every single dev, unless they're Chinese, to force Kamala Khan into their Marvel game. But yeah, if you're excited for this, I'm not going to rain on your parade, because I honestly don't give a fuck. And that was the Sony showcase. Yeah, it was ass. Let's move on. The next big show was the main Summer Game Fest showcase, and because it was 2 hours long, I'm not going to bring up every single game they showed, especially since the vast majority are ones no one would care about. And if you're expecting some classic Jeff Keighley cringe like is at every Game Awards, there's not a whole lot of that either. So let's try and get through this in a timely manner. It starts off with Jeff Keighley showing off all of the big games that have released in the first half of this year so far, and goddamn, what a perfect encapsulation of how mediocre 2025 has been. When the best-selling game is Repo, a fucking Lethal Company clone, you know things are bad. The first major reveal was for Mortal Shell 2, which longtime fans of me might remember was actually one of my first reviews for the channel. The short version is it's Just another Souls-like. I mean, admittedly, I did like Mortal Shell at the time, but I'm significantly more burnt out on Souls-likes than I was back then, so who knows if I'll end up liking this. I will say it does look higher quality than the first game, there's no doubt about that, so I can only hope that it finds a way to stand out from the countless other games in this genre. Then there's a trailer for the Star Wars Fortnite shit, which I heard actually has given Fortnite its lowest player numbers in a long time, because as it turns out, Zoomers don't give a fuck about Star Wars. Kind of based, actually. Star Wars has been dead for like over a decade. Then Jeff Keighley's boyfriend Kojima shows up on stage, and we are literally forced to watch a fucking cutscene. Not even an interesting cutscene, just a man and a woman talking. The fucking discount snake dude talking to some hag. I have no idea who the fuck she is. What a waste of fucking time. And basically all this is to advertise that Death Stranding actually had its own gameplay showcase a couple days later, which I'll briefly talk about later. Then a flabby hag shows up on stage. She is our female presenter for today, with a questionable tattoo on her arm, no less. God damn, I hate BlackRock and Vanguard. Where are the hot chicks? Then there's a reveal for a game called Chronicles Medieval, which I suppose is some kind of like third-person action game combined with RTS elements. They didn't really show gameplay, so who knows. Then we get another trailer for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and as everyone suspected, it's just the third game in the Sonic All-Stars Racing series, because yes, we got crossover characters like Hatsune Miku and Joker from Persona 5, and of course a Yakuza character as well, which is not surprising. And Iizuka even throws some shade against Mario Kart.
Unlike another kart racing game,
Ooh.
this game will have online cross-platform matchmaking.
And then for the final reveal for the game, we have Steve from Minecraft in a Minecraft level. This really is just turning into Sonic Racing Smash Bros. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna play this shit. Doesn't mean I think it'll be good, I'm just being honest with you. Then we get quite a few trailers for games that I honestly don't give a shit about, like a Code Vein 2 trailer, again, just another Souls-like. Then there's some top-down shooter with some amalgamation monster things. There's a Steamboat Willie-inspired boomer shooter, and some shitty-ass Game of Thrones game. Who the fuck cares about Game of Thrones anymore? Now, the next reveal, admittedly, I was interested in, as Atomic Heart 2 has already been announced. I feel like the first one just came out not even that long ago. Now, I was fairly critical of it, but I was being honest. I was not shilling it, and I wasn't shitting on it, and I really had no comments relevant to the Ukraine-Russia war or anything like that. I just think it was a very flawed game, but I do think it was the type of game that got better the further you got into it. I think the aesthetic was really fucking strong, and it looks like the visuals are just as strong in the sequel. We still got sexy, faceless robot ladies, and we actually got a nice view of ass and titties at the Summer Game Fest. I was shocked. So yeah, I'll admit, I actually am interested to play this. I hope it's better than the first one. And there's also what appears to be a multiplayer shooter in the Atomic Heart world, The Cube, which is very strange, but maybe I'll give it a shot, I don't know. Then we get a reveal for a Marvel classic beat-em-up style game, which normally I wouldn't really care about either direction, but they fucking turned She-Hulk into an Abby. She had perfect sexy proportions, and they roided her out further. Oh my god, it's gross. Why? I can't escape Abbies. Everywhere I look, there's disgusting roided out muscle women. Then we get another trailer for the Onimusha remake, reboot, sequel, whatever, the modern one. Again, I haven't played any of the classic games, so I won't say I'm personally excited for this, but it does look interesting. At least it's not a Souls-like, I hope. And then we're shown a trailer for Ark Raiders, which I noticed was being heavily shilled in the chat before the show began. People were telling me that this game had like a pre-alpha demo that people really liked the gunplay for, but all I can see is the black woman being shoved in my face. So forgive me if I'm a little skeptical, but I don't even care if this is some good multiplayer. If you played this, you are supporting the disgusting DEI shit. It's even borrowing that like 70s pseudo Guardians of the Galaxy style Concord-like slappa that like 10 games have stolen this aesthetic for some reason. People who grew up in the 70s don't even play video games. I'm not gonna say I hate that style or anything. I think it can look cool, certainly, but it almost feels like revisionist history, like they're trying to pretend that things were way more woke 50 years ago than they actually were. I don't know, that could just be a conspiracy theory, but regardless, I keep noticing this shit, and it always ends up being, well, exactly that, shit. So no, I'm not trying this. Don't support this if you have any goddamn principles. Then we get yet another trailer for the Dune MMO, which I guess is about to come out. In fact, it'll be out by the time this video is uploaded. And it's clear they had no idea how to really sell an MMO because they set up this huge narrative about this albino black guy and this brown woman. I guess they were allies or maybe had romance, and now they're on opposite sides and have to fight each other, and then this trailer has 2 seconds of gameplay. This is a video game, not a movie. It's a fucking MMO. Those are all gameplay. Oh, whatever, man. I'm complaining about the same shit I always do. Let's move on. The next trailer was for a game called Chrono Odyssey, which is some kind of action game, but I don't really know what to make of it because this vertical slice shit, I really couldn't tell you anything, like if it's a Souls-like, if it's maybe a more standard action RPG, maybe more of a hack and slash, no idea. At least visually it looks interesting, I'll give it that. After 3 more trailers of complete slop that I'm not going to describe in detail, we get another trailer for Mafia: The Old Country, which you think I might be interested in because many of you know I'm half Italian. Honestly, my problem is I tried the Mafia 1 remake and it was a glorified movie game with like extremely linear mission sections, and they don't really show any gameplay in this trailer, so I have no idea if this is going to be more of that. You guys know I don't like movie games, and I'm afraid this is probably going to be a movie game just based on the fact that almost everything they've shown on this game has been cutscenes. Then we get, no joke, at least 10 minutes of trailers for games that are not worth mentioning in any capacity except maybe the 7 Deadly Sins game, if only because I've been told it's one of the worst shonen of all time. So clearly it deserved to have a video game adaptation. Then the chick from Yacht Club Games comes onto the stage, talks about how great Shovel Knight was 10 years ago, and they show off their mouse game again, which, you know, is clearly doing like the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening aesthetic, and I really just have no comment at all. I don't know. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. Typically when indie devs don't make anything for 10 years and come back, the new game is nowhere near as good as their old one. My brother, who has played a shit ton of indie games and their sequels years later, can definitely attest to this pattern. So if Silk Song ends up sucking, just know that I won't be surprised. Speaking of the Hollow Knight sequel, there's actually a joke in the showcase immediately after this trailer saying not to play a Hollow Knight Silk Song trailer, and guess what? There never is one in any of these shows, despite it supposedly coming out this year. So don't be shocked if it gets delayed again. And that joke is made for a Deadpool VR game. Who gives a fuck? Then we get another trailer for Dying Light: The Beast. You know I wasn't a huge fan of 2, but it looks like this is more similar to the first one, which a lot more people liked, so who knows, maybe it'll be good. Then we get a trailer for what I can only describe as a Sifu-like, some kind of martial arts combat game where I guess you could also grab weapons and shoot people and stuff. The gameplay looks not too bad, for sure. Then there's a sequel to the Scott Pilgrim beat-em-up game from an eternity ago, which I feel like after the recent Netflix show where Scott Pilgrim isn't even one of the main characters in his own goddamn show, I'm not sure how many people still care about this franchise at this point. Then we get what I can only describe as an ad segment, and then we get a huge trailer for a game that's literally about to release, even though there's a good chance you'd never heard of it before watching this trailer. Mind's Eye, which is also at least published by IOI. So this might be the next huge AAA bomb, because I've seen absolutely no hype for this game whatsoever. Now, I probably will stream most, if not all of it, because I love playing middleware slop games, and this looks like it was straight out of like 2010, being a generic third-person shooter. They show off the gameplay during the IOI showcase, and yeah, dude, it does not look like anything anyone wants to fucking play. I feel like if you played a significant amount of video games during the PS3 360 generation, you played like 20 games just like this. I guarantee you this is the next big industry flop. And we get a minor little reveal that the next elusive target in Hitman World of Assassination is Mads Mikkelsen's character from Casino Royale. I guess that's kind of cool. There is a strange appeal to killing famous people in Hitman. I don't know why they've done that so many times, but I guess it's kind of cool. I wish there wasn't the FOMO element. You only have like a month to do the mission, then they remove it. That really sucks. Then finally, after another few slop trailers, we get another actually interesting game, Ill, a first-person shooter horror game that has dismemberment like Dead Space. And while the actual gameplay does look a bit too slow, that could be just for the trailers, I don't know, I have to admit it does look good. Then we get a bunch more slop trailers, with the only notable things happening being that, one, we are lied to and told that they're not going to show Resident Evil 9, and two, the announcement for the next Fighter Pass characters for Street Fighter 6 is done by a guy dressing in drag. Yeah, it wouldn't be fucking Capcom without some of this gay shit. Among the slop trailers was a Wu-Tang Clan game. I'm not making this up. It seems fake. It's not fucking fake. This is like the new Shaq Fu. And then eventually we get a trailer for a semi-interesting game. Another like classic cartoon style. Kind of looks like a forgettable middleware PS2 action platformer style game, like a bunch of stuff I grew up with, which might not sound like the best sales pitch, but honestly, I'll take 10 of those games over basically anything that releases today. So I might give Unwell a chance when it comes out. And then for the only interesting controversy of the entire show, Ian Prue, the co-founder of 1047 Games, the guys who develop Splitgate and now Splitgate 2, comes on stage wearing a Make FPS Great Again and kind of just looking like a mid-2000s chudcore white guy, which apparently upset Twitter. And he tries to convince us Splitgate 2 it's just like fucking Halo, dude, and it's like Titanfall. When's Titanfall 3? And then he shows us the game, and it's the most fucking generic rainbow DEI slop you've ever seen. And the gameplay doesn't even really look like Halo. It looks more like Titanfall with the momentum-based sliding and stuff. And I like Titanfall too. I had a lot of fun playing that game, even though I played it far past its prime. But this aesthetic is fucking disgusting. This is clearly the DEI bridge, like BlackRock Vanguard type of woke shit. And you're trying to convince me, no, this is based 2000s pilled gaming? No, this is complete marketing bullshit. Not to mention, this trailer is showcasing a new Battle Royale mode. Yeah, when you think of classic FPS games, you think of Battle Royales. What a fucking joke. Then there's a reveal for a Yakuza-like called Stranger Than Heaven, which interestingly takes place during 1943 in Japan. I'm wondering if there might be some interesting politics in this game, but I gotta say, you know, if you like Yakuza type of shit, it does look interesting. I'm not really the biggest fan of Yakuza, as I've been asked about 1,000 times over the course of streaming. Maybe someday I'll give the series another chance, but that day is not today. And then for the final reveal of the show, it's Resident Evil 9, and, you know, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, but yeah, this is not selling me. Not at all. I know the super fans are all excited, like, dude, Resident Evil Outbreak is canon! It's Alyssa Ashcroft's daughter, and you're exploring a post-apocalyptic Raccoon City, basically. I mean, I can applaud them for trying something different, for sure. I'm glad it's not another remake that is no doubt worse than the original. In some cases, completely butchering the original. Looking at you, Resident Evil 3 Remake. But I don't know, Capcom has already disappointed me too many times in the past 7 or 8 years, so I don't know, I guess we'll just have to wait and see if it's any good. I don't have anything else to say about it. And that was the Summer Game Fest main showcase. 2 hours, and again, there's maybe 3 games that I really cared about. Now, basically every single other show that was between this and the Xbox Game Showcase was complete shit, and there's basically nothing to talk about. I mean, they showed, you know, well over 100 indie games, I think, over the course of, you know, probably 10 hours of presentations. I didn't even bother watching 3 or 4 of them. But I think you can just tell by the names that none of this shit was worth your time. I mean, Day of the Devs, Woman-Led Games, Wholesome Game Stream, Latin American Game Showcase. There's an Australian game showcase. Need I go on? This is clearly just fucking diversity shit. So if you deluded yourself into thinking woke is dead, as someone who forced himself to watch the woman-led game show, it's far from fucking dead, dude. And speaking of dead, the actual live streams themselves were dead. My chat completely took over the woman-led games live stream chat. We were about 80% of the people talking in there. I'm not even joking, just look at this. No one gave a single fuck about any game that was shown on Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised if over half the projects shown, if not most of them, were completely funded by a mysterious investment firm or by a government. Now, there was one game I saw that I'm sure all of you guys want me to talk about, so we will cover that briefly. A little Afrofuturism game called Relooted, where you play as one of these lovely Wakandans who have decided they're going to steal back day culture from all the museums that have illicitly gotten their hands on African cultural artifacts stolen by the colonizers. So it's a game about black people where you steal shit. But I guess it's fine if it belonged to your ancestors, not your direct blood relatives. No, that doesn't matter. They were black, you're black. That means they're yours. They belong to you by right. So you use your futuristic Wakanda technology to steal artifacts from museums. What a great game concept, not woke at all. And yes, this is being developed in South Africa. And also, yes, there's a few white people on the dev team that will no doubt be dead by the time this game releases. So that was by far the most woke thing of the show, bar none. I honestly have nothing to say about this at all that wouldn't just get me banned, but it is amusing to say the least. And to briefly touch on the IOI game showcase, yeah, it was completely fucked. The audio was broken. It's clear that IOI has already accepted that Mind's Eye is going to be a huge bomb. I mean, if you watch the gameplay, again, literally just looks like a generic third-person shooter from 2010. Of course, with more diversity than 2010, but I digress. Honestly, it just reminded me of a classic E3 disaster with the tiny showroom, the cringe, the bad games. You might be wondering what I thought of the Future Game Showcase, which was technically not part of the Summer Game Fest. Yeah, I don't really have much to say other than Matt Mercer and Laura Bailey were being cringe lords. Not too surprising there. They showed off a Bioshock-like where you use blood to fuel your gun called Creasol Theater of Idols. That I probably will try out, but other than that game, the only games that caught my attention were there's an Expanse game in development, which I used to really like that show until season 4, and there's another Forspoken-like with a brown female protagonist that I'll no doubt try because I have to play all of those games. And there was also a couple indies that caught my attention. Ground Zero is a Resident Evil-like that looks pretty solid, and Hark of Ghoul is another one of those PS1 style aesthetic, first-person melee combat action with magic type of game, like a Kingsfield sort of thing it looks like. But that's pretty much it. An hour and 45 minutes of show, and I can barely name any games that were even vaguely interesting. So now that we've got all that out of the way, let's get to the last show that anyone cares about, the Xbox Game Showcase. Again, if you're one of those people who thought woke was on the decline, you're going to be severely disappointed in Microsoft after you see this. It starts off with a trailer for Outer Worlds 2, which I have gone on record to say many times that the first game was mediocre, despite any revisionist history from Redditors. The whole game was basically just capitalism bad, and the shooting was very mediocre. The writing was, millennial humor, to put it lightly. And probably my most defining memory from playing that game is getting cucked by a lesbian. Isn't that a great thing to remember? Yes, Parvati, the only likable female character in the game, is a lesbian, and you help her go on a fucking date. A proud cuck, the Outer Worlds protagonist was. I fucking hate Outer Worlds, but even saying that, I have to admit, Outer Worlds 2 will likely be better than Starfield. Isn't that sad? But it's a very, very low bar. There was also a direct for the game immediately after the showcase that I'm not going to talk about, which basically just showed more gameplay and your companions and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's just diversity, woke slop, future, capitalism bad, from arguably the biggest corporation on the planet. So, good shit. Next up is a trailer for High on Life 2, which I'm shocked that game is getting a sequel, especially without Justin Roiland, I assume. Now, I actually didn't think the first one was that bad, even though it was horrifically unfunny, with it only making me laugh 3 times over the entire course of the game, 2 of them being directly involved in just murdering NPCs, and the third being a retard voice. Let's do it! Let's do it! So I can't exactly say I'm excited. Next up, we get a game in the A Plague Tale universe featuring a light brown female protagonist, notably showing no gameplay, so you know it's worth pre-ordering. Then for the most baffling reveal of the show, we get the Xbox handheld that's being made by Asus. This thing apparently is $800. Has Microsoft forgotten the amount of backlash that Nintendo got for the Switch 2? Now, granted, I do think this is meant to be a luxury item, more like a direct competitor with the Valve Steam Deck than anything, but come the fuck on, man. I feel like this is something that appeals to almost nobody, because if you have a Steam Deck, you probably can already play most of Xbox's lineup. Either way, I can't say I care about it personally on any level. Then we are once again reminded that Sarah Bond is the president of Xbox, and suddenly all these diverse female protagonists make sense. I'm so glad she's running Xbox into the ground, so we all know who to blame when shit hits the fan. Granted, it's being subsidized by Microsoft, so I guess Xbox can't ever truly die no matter how bleak things get. And then we get a trailer for some vampire game that looks so generic, I'm not going to say its name. And up next, a game I'm actually kind of interested in, Super Meat Boy 3D. Meat Boy and later Super Meat Boy were classic indie platformers back in the day, back when the genre wasn't oversaturated to hell. Now, from what I understand, Edmund McMillan is not involved in this in any fashion, so it might be complete shit, who knows, but I'm certainly going to try it, especially since I'll try basically any 3D platformer. Next trailer was for Ninja Gaiden 4, which I absolutely will be playing, and don't worry, I will try to fix Ninja Gaiden Sigma in the next couple days, so I can finish that on stream. But yeah, it looks good. Hopefully Platinum Games still has it just enough to make this combat compelling, because their last, several titles have been mediocre from what I hear. Then after a trailer for Indiana Jones DLC that I doubt anyone will buy, we get probably the most strange reveal of the entire Summer Game Fest. Game Freak's next game, you know, the developers of Pokemon, are making what appears to be a Sekiro-like with far better graphics than they've ever put in any game before. Like, they actually put real effort into this, whereas Pokemon gets to be a buggy, fucking worse than GameCube looking mess. And I'm not even saying that as an exaggeration, because Genius Sonority, the guys who made Pokemon Coliseum and XD, those games have way more effort put into them than any of the 3D Pokemon games. But no. Game Freak proves they could make a good game if they wanted to. What a goddamn joke. But yeah, Beast of Reincarnation actually looks pretty good. I'll probably give it a chance. Next up is another trailer for Clockwork, which was revealed, I can't remember if it was the Game Awards or maybe last year's Summer Game Fest, which is a steampunk, kind of like BioShock Infinite looking RPG. And apparently it's got time travel. Always love me some time travel. That never makes a shitty plot ever. And I don't want to be too negative on this because at least it's a game that looks different, but it's one of those RPGs where the main character has voice acting, you know, like Fallout 4. And we all know that it's a great formula for good writing and player choice. As people have pointed out a bunch of times in both Fallout 4 and in Cyberpunk 2077, most of your choices are just yes, sarcastic yes, question, and no, right? And I imagine it'll be much the same in Clockwork. It seems like the shooting at least might be decent, but when it comes to RPGs, I just want a compelling story, an immersive universe, and good characters. That should be the most important thing. Yeah, it doesn't seem like any of that is put as a focus in this trailer. If anything, the characters have the quirky Reddit fake edginess, where a dude just bashes a guy in the head and we're supposed to pretend it's normal. That's not dark, that's not gritty, that's not serious, that's cartoon shit. But whatever, let's move on. Then the president of content at Xbox comes out. His name is unironically Matt Booty, by the way. It talks about how great it is that Xbox franchises are influencing film and TV, like the Fallout show. And look at all these great games they've released lately. Another Call of Duty, the worst in the new Doom trilogy. fucking Avowed, which is actual trash. Oh, and of course, they showed the chicken jockey from Minecraft. Time to go crimer mode on your local theater. Wow, Xbox is doing so great, guys. And then they show a trailer for Grounded 2. I forgot the first one even came out. That's the one where you get shrunk to the size of ants and, I don't know, do whatever the fuck you're supposed to do. It's some co-op multiplayer garbo. Then we see another trailer for Chronos, The New Dawn, which is Bloober Team's next game. As you already know, I despise Bloober Team's take on Silent Hill 2, so I will make it my mission to review this. Just judging on the short bit of gameplay here, it seems like Ill is going to be a better game in a similar genre, so you should probably check that out instead of this. Then after several trailers of garbage that's not worth talking about, we get a Korean game that seems to be some kind of third-person shooter with zombies or something. They kept flashing this blonde chick over and over again, almost like jingling keys in a Baby Sensory video or some shit. They finally figured out how to get the average chud gamer's attention. Just show a blonde chick with cleavage hanging out. Then we get a very strange trailer of a game that almost looks like a Palworld clone, except you get to play as the Pokemon. I don't even know what to make of this shit. It looks like it's for little girls, but, well, that's never stopped me from trying a game before, so who knows. Then for some reason, we were subjected to the walking corpse of Tony Hawk. Holy fuck, what happened to this man? And he talks about the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 collection remaster, whatever the hell. I only played like one of these games growing up. Wasn't really ever too much into the skateboarding scene, so I can't say I really care about this. Then we get some gross, like, TrueCore lesbian action platformer game. I mean, Jesus, man. They're trying way too hard to, like, desexualize women in this shit. And there's fucking implied sister incest. It seems like, yeah, no, this is weird. There's even a fucking dialogue option that says, "You're acting like mom." Oh my god, man. It's so embarrassing. And then, guys, we get to see the Gears of War trilogy is finally coming to PlayStation. Oh my god, I'm so excited to play the original generic third-person cover-based shooter. Well, actually, I've already played Gears of War 1, and I was not impressed, but whatever, that's besides the point. Then we get a short trailer for the Persona 4 remake. Now, I think Persona 4 is a really great game, but, yeah, again, you know how I feel about remakes. This is just kind of a quick cash grab to get the Persona 5 new friends to play the older games in the series, just like they did with 3. The only thing I worry about is that Persona 4 has some problematic messaging in it, namely the controversy about whether or not Kanji is gay and if Naoto is like a trans man or whatever the hell. I'd say it's a safe guess to say they're going to at least tone down the homophobia in the remake. The next reveal is for an Invincible fighting game. It looks like it's trying to compete with Injustice, but it has Mortal Kombat style fatalities. I don't think I've ever really talked about Invincible on this channel. I only watched season 1 and I fucking hated Mark. I think he's an extremely pussified version of Spider-Man, except, you know, he has Superman's powers, so it's even more pathetic. I hear he gets better in season 2 and 3, but yeah, that left such a fucking bad taste in my mouth that I really had no interest after that point, and I sure as hell have no interest in a fighting game, for that matter. The next reveal is for Double Fine's next game, where you play as a lighthouse with legs. Yeah, this shit looks like a walking simulator, I'll be honest. This might have had novelty like 15 years ago, but these days it's already like 1,000 indie games doing the same thing as this. I guess the only thing that really makes it stand out is the visuals, but it's got a lot of that like bisexual lighting going on, you know, the blue, pink, purple stuff that I'm extremely sick of seeing by now. So yeah, I can't say I'm interested. Then Phil Spencer finally comes out, and it's clear he's taking Ozempic like every goddamn celebrity. He's looking like a fucking ghoul, dude. Bring back the chubster. And he hypes up the final reveal of the show. A long-anticipated sequel to a beloved mascot platform franchise, Spyro 4. No, it wasn't Spyro. It was fucking Call of Duty Black Ops 7. God damn it, dude. I was lied to. They told me it was gonna be Spyro 4. I got excited. I wore my fucking beaten up old ass Spyro shirt. I watched that shitty ass show, and what'd I get out of it? Nothing. Fucking nothing. Who cares about Black Ops 7? Normies don't even watch these shows. Oh my god, man. I'm sure there's people who are like, well, what about the PC gaming show? It was 2 hours long. Surely there was one game reveal during it that you're excited about. Nope. You could use the PC gaming show as an effective form of torture. You know what? I'm just gonna send that video to Guantanamo Bay and just have them play it. I guarantee you it's more effective than waterboarding. Holy shit. I can't take it anymore. I'm not even gonna talk about it. I'm tempted. You know I want to talk shit about Mika Burton, but I'm not gonna do it. It's not worth it. All I know is that was another 2 hours of my life down the fucking drain. Now, before I get to the conclusion, I want to very, very briefly talk about the Death Stranding showcase, because I did watch like 20 to 30 minutes of it. All I've really got to say is that I don't care about this walking simulator shit. Am I gonna play it? Yeah, probably. Not sure if I'll even review it, but I'll give it a shot. But one thing I will say, other than the copious amount of cutscenes, both Jeff and Kojima crossing their legs like women and all the celebrity fellatio going on, they showed off the boss fight against the discount snake guy, who I guess is a bad guy, and it was supposed to be a stealth boss fight, and this is some of the worst goddamn AI I've seen from enemies in a long time. I mean, the fight literally begins with Neil knowing you're coming, the direction you're approaching from, and in the fucking gameplay demo, he just sneaks up the middle and then stealth kills somebody immediately. They're not even watching where you're coming from. And then the dude failed to throw a grenade like 3 times in a row. The AI is just like flopping around, not even really shooting at him. Holy crap, man. That is some of the worst like demo boss fight gameplay I've seen since like famous E3 fails in the past. So I just had to get that out real quick. This is the worst year yet, man. I'm serious. I know I say that every fucking year. I do. But it's true every time. I feel like my last shred of passion for the video game industry is slowly being killed. I'm trying to hang on to it because I need to care at least a little bit for the sake of my channel. Because if I'm completely apathetic toward gaming, I can't make these videos. But they are trying their hardest to make me not care about video games anymore. How the fuck did I watch more than 8 hours of presentations and take away almost nothing from them? I mean, yes, there was probably 6 or 7 games that I will definitely play. And, you know, if you count games that I'm going to try to review, it's probably at least 10. But I must have seen trailers for over 100 games. And I can't even fucking remember any of them. The amount of indie games I saw that clearly are made for no one. I mean, that is truly depressing, especially when you hear how often people are saying indies is saving the industry. When the most popular indie game from this year is a goddamn Lethal Company streamer bait game. And I don't have anything against that type of game. I mean, it's fine if you have fun with those. I had fun with Lethal Company. But that is not what video games is supposed to fucking be, man. High budget games are all mediocre or just straight up dog shit, it feels like, with a few exceptions each year. And then the indie games are all extremely uninspired roguelites, puzzle platformers, walking simulators, Metroidvanias, etc., etc., etc. It's the same goddamn shit. And even the newer trend of having these PS1-like games, I like the aesthetic, but it's just done so poorly in a lot of cases. A lot of these aren't even fucking games. Like, remember Dread Delusion from last year? That was a walking simulator pretending to be a Morrowind clone. And man, you know, I could go on this huge long speech about how gaming is dead for the millionth time, but instead, I might as well just explain what I've been doing these past few weeks, since I didn't review all of The Last of Us, and I didn't even end up reviewing Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, which I got early access for, but I streamed all the way through it. Yeah, so, I don't know. The short version is, I'm obviously losing some passion for this channel. I think that's evident to anybody who's been watching for the past couple of years. And why is that? Well, a lot of it is because I just don't really care about video games that much anymore. Even though a lot of times these days, I'll set aside some time to go play some old good games. Like, I was enjoying playing Ninja Gaiden Sigma, even if people wanted me to play Ninja Gaiden Black instead for various reasons. Still, was having a good time. At the end of the day, it didn't really, like, re-spark my passion or anything. Yes, the older games are better, but I think just as a whole, I'm finding it hard to care about video games very passionately anymore. When all we have to look forward to in the future is disappointment, there's only so much joy I can get out of going back to the past and playing good games that don't suck ass. I don't know, maybe it's just a me problem really, but my passion for this hobby is dwindling greatly. And so I found it hard to really gather the passion I needed to review The Last of Us show or to cover Tainted Grail. Because, like, at the end of the day, I make these videos because I like making them, right? It's not about the fucking money, no matter what people say, right? It's not about grifting or any of that shit. I can only make the videos if I care, and I'm finding it very difficult to care about video games anymore. So, hopefully I can figure out a way to work around this burnout so that I can keep making content for you guys, because I know a lot of you do not watch the streams. The streams are easy, you know, that takes no effort on my part, so I've been streaming a lot lately. But I do still want to make videos. I think videos are important. This is, you know, a game review channel first and foremost, alongside, of course, making the Gaming is Dying series and things related to that. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get that out there as a brief explanation. I don't know if I'll review Mind's Eye, but I will be streaming it, so feel free to check that out if you want to see how mediocre it likely is. That's about it. See you next time, guys.